Welcome to another episode of Authors Learning Something New. On today's episode, we have PL Stuart, author of A Drowned Kingdom, and Rick Tabor, your host, author of Children of the Scroll. On today's show, we have PL Stuart, the author of A Drowned Kingdom, and I'm your host today, the author of Children of the Scroll. Hey, show us your book. Show us the copy of your book right at the beginning here. Let's see that.
There's a special edition. There's the regular hardcover, and there's the broken binding special edition.
All right, so the big one, is that a hardcover also?
Yes, they're both hardcovers actually.
They're both hardcovers.
Yep, I have hardcovers, ebooks, and softcovers for all my books.
Okay.
Also,
my favorite kind of book to read is Kindle, but it's followed very closely by a hardcover. So, all right, tell me about your book.
This is the first book in the planned 7-book series. 5 books are already out. The 6th one's about to be published shortly. Essentially, the premise is what would happen if Atlantis, we all know about the Plato's Tale of the Lost Realm of Atlantis. It's my version, of course. It's not exactly true to Plato's Tale. So essentially, what would happen if Atlantis sunk, but there were survivors, and where the survivors go and what would they do? And in my version, the survivors are led by this very flawed prince, and he takes them across the sea to this new continent. He wants to reestablish Atlantis, but the people in the new continent don't want him there. The Atlanteans, in my version, similar to Plato's Tale, they're colonialists, they're brutal subjugators, and they have a reputation for betraying their enemies. So when they go to this new continent, there's lots of warlords there that want the leader, my main character, and his people wiped off the board. There's also class and religion and cultures. My Atlanteans are very monotheistic, and they believe anything other than their religion are pagan and heresy. So again, a class of cultures fight for survival for the Atlanteans, and we'll see if my main character can survive, much less establish a new Atlantis. Well, thank you so much. You can tell us about your book?
Oh yeah, I can tell you about my book. Here's my book, Children of the Scroll. It's about a young man who loses his mom during COVID. And in the midst of his grief, he stumbles across this scroll in an abandoned synagogue. And the scroll turns out to be sort of one of these actual mythical sort of items, sort of like in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Ark of the Covenant. This one is the Zephyr Yetzirah, and it's a scroll that has the potential to bring his mom back to life. And by the way, it can bring other things back to life, like clay and so forth. So people want that sort of power, as you can imagine, lots of people. And so thus begins the race to keep their family together and keep the scroll to themselves. And can you tell us a little bit about your background?
In terms of education, I have a bachelor's in medieval literature with a minor in history. Started writing in my 50s, published in my 50s. Spent the last better part of 2+ decades in law enforcement. That's my day job, and writing is my wonderful hobby. I'm looking forward to doing shortly when I retire. I really enjoy the whole process. I plan to write as many books as I can this series, hopefully 30 or 40 in the general universe. This specific series is going to be 7 books, but I plan to write prequel trilogies and follow-up series and standalones. Writing is amazing. I love the writing community. I'm an assistant editor with the wonderful Before We Go blog site. I'm also a contributor with Grimdark Magazine. And I have my own little YouTube channel, just like you, very small one, where my favorite thing there to do is do interviews on wonderful authors such as yourself and give back to the community that's given so much back to me. So great to be part of everything to do bookish in the community.
Very cool. You're a very well-grounded person, human being. You're obviously really intelligent. I mean, it's you got the whole package going for you, PL. I love it. You keep it up, you're going to be super successful. I have no doubt about it.
Well, I think you're right back at you, Rick. Obviously, I feel the same about you, but I mean, it's, I think it's the experience, the gray beard, right? It's nothing I'm so special. It's just, I'm a granddad, right? Like, so,
Yeah, me
you know,
too.
but please, I'd love to hear a bit about your background as well.
I'm a polymer science guy. I still do consulting a little bit. I've done chemistry my whole life, or well, since high school. Let's put it that way. I did some science fairs, started out that way, and had a really fun career. And I continue to have fun consulting. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun writing books now that I'm semi-retired, and yeah, and enjoying that aspect of life as well. So, all right, now it's time for your special question. So, what made you want to write a book that combines murder mystery slash thriller with fantasy mysticism, as opposed to just writing in one subgenre?
Well, I think my book is probably a lot more the fancy mysticism rather than the thriller mystery. That's those aren't so much of a component of the first book, anyways. Later in the series, some of those elements come in, but it's pretty epic fantasy for the most part for the vast majority of the series, like the first, 3 to 4 books, and then and it's actually very low fantasy at first. You kind of get to see you're wondering if magic exists at all. You're seeing through the character's eyes as he who's dubious about magic, whether or not it actually exists, if it's in his head, if he's going crazy. So, but there are some mystery elements that especially take place later in the series. But I think for me, I love reading all types of genres. I think and subgenres. I think there's very few books that are strictly one thing. I think there's elements of all kinds of subgenres in almost every book. So I think that's a natural thing. It's not even purposeful. It's just, I think that's just part of a writing period, whether it's speculative fiction or whatever you're writing. I think that other subgenres will bleed into what you're writing. Okay, Rick, so I have a special question for you. So, how do you handle negative reviews or negative criticism?
When I get negative feedback, I view them as gold nuggets. And I go, okay, I got to listen to this. I got to go look at it. Now, I've had a few criticisms where I went, I think this guy's a little nutsy. And I would just go, okay, I'm going to put that aside. But most of them are very valuable and they result in me improving myself and my writing. If you were asked to compare your book with a movie or a book that we might already be familiar with, what would it be and why?
That's actually a very interesting and somewhat difficult question. I think my work is, I mean, every author thinks their work is very unique. I'm going to say movie, more TV series. I think if you enjoy things like Bernard Cornwell's, it's really the books were the Saxon stories. I believe there's different iterations of what it's called, but the series is called The Last Kingdom, and the main protagonist, Uhtred of Bebenberg. I mean, author and my main character is not like Uhtred. He's a lot more complicated and flawed. But I think in terms of the action, in terms of the political intrigue, and the setting, I think you might get vibes of that series potentially from you might not, but you might get those kind of vibes from my series. So what about yourself, Rick? If you were going to compare your book with a book or movie or what that we would be familiar with, what would it be in your case?
Well, I think I mentioned one of them earlier, and that's Indiana Jones and the Temple of the, or, I mean, and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that'd be one, and then I'd take some Dan Brown's um, Da Vinci Code. I'd put those in a blender and flip the switch, and out would come, the adventure of, a lot of adventure and a lot of mystery and some magic and such. So yeah. And now here's a question I'm really interested in. You have converted your book into an audio book. That's something I haven't done either. And so I'm super interested in what you did to do that.
Well, first of all, let me say I'm, prior to, and it's only my first book that's an audiobook. prior to doing that, I really misunderstood just how difficult it is to be a voice actor, a narrator. I think hats off to all the voice actors, narrators. They have a really challenging job. There are times when I've had to do, I've been asked to do, okay, like do a little, recording of, a sample from your book, right? And I've tripped and fumbled over a little passage so many times. This is a book that I wrote, right? And
Right.
it's just
And
incredible
you've got a
how.
great voice too. So I mean, you'd be a natural, but it's
No,
all about that putting a whole lot of words together for a long time without making a mistake.
yeah, it's amazing. And of course, you get takes and retakes, but I just think the whole experience was phenomenal. I think that just the fact that you have especially a large fantasy book like mine, um, and I actually had two voice actors to act different parts. I think there's a lot more involved than you might think in terms of like you have to give a background for your actors to know how this character should be pronounced, what age the character is, what their inflections are. How would they sound in this particular scene? What kind of what's their emotional makeup? There's so many things that go into providing the actors and putting them in the best position to really deliver on the performance. So I just think it's really fantastic. A lot more work than you think, but very rewarding. And audio is such a huge now booming part of the book industry that I think it's a good investment in terms of at least having the first book, especially if it's a series or standalone, seeing if you can convert it to an audiobook as well.
How much does something like that cost ish, if you can share that?
They're quite expensive. The average audiobook, unless you do it yourself and you have your own voice recording equipment and studio, etc., they're quite expensive. I'd say the average they run upwards of between $3,000 to as much as I've heard 10 to 15, $20,000.
Oh,
You need to have the financial tolerance to do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Mine wasn't in near the $20,000, et cetera. But to get, especially if you get a really reputable voice actor,
yeah,
they don't come cheap because,
yeah.
as I said, they're really important. And it was a company called Audavita. They were fantastic.
Okay.
Really great to work with. Very responsive. Really tried to get the best out of the voice actors and myself as the author. Again, Audavita, they were wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, my book is on Audible/ACX.
Nice. All right. Thanks for that. All right. And what is the most important thing you've learned as an author during your journey so far that would help some other authors?
I think one of the most important things as an author that you need to understand is that if you want to write a large body of work, as I aspire to, the journey isn't linear. There'll be ups and downs. Just persevere. Probably alongside of that, writing seems like a very solitary endeavor, but it's not. It's all about the community and boosting other people up and lifting other authors, and they will lift you up in turn. It's actually a lot more collaborative, or should potentially be, especially if you're going to be successful, than it seems. And of course, you're also collaborating with people like your editor, right, and or your publisher if you have one. So I think it's leaning on those people, having a writing group as well, or other author friends who can share your journey and commiserate with all the downs and celebrate the highs with you and toast the highs. So again, I think it's a lot of it. It's about the community support that can really help you succeed in this entrepreneurship stuff.
Well said, PL. Well said. All right. Do you have a website? And are you on social media? Of course you are. Where are
Uh,
you on social
I,
media?
I do pretty well. Everything on my social media is normally the handle is at PL Stuart Writes. So at PL Stuart Writes. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky nominally. The website's plstewart.com. And of course, I have a YouTube channel called The Drowned Kingdom Saga.
Show us your book one more time.
There's the hardcover, and there is the lovely broken binding special edition.
Nice. All right, there you go, readers and fellow authors. There are the two books that you need to read next. Thanks for watching another episode of Authors Learning Something New. And if you're watching this on my YouTube account, please press subscribe to hear more.